Okay, we're going to look at the stock market here as we get into the final part of the show here. We're going to take a short-term view. We're going to look at the S&P 500 and we're going to look at the Vix. For quite a number of weeks, actually for a few months, I have talked about a correction that was due into March and then another rally to new highs. And that's almost exactly what happened. If you look back, several months, we were looking for a deeper correction, but then as the market told us so, we raised our projections for that correction to 6 to 7% for the S&P 500. It was actually 5.8%, even though the Russell and the NASDAQ were down 11.2 and 12%. So it was, in some things, a pretty good deeper correction. S&P 500 pretty shallow, and then moved up into this time frame as expected. And we continue to believe that the market will be firm into late May and potentially into June, making higher levels. Let's take a look at that analysis, and we'll take a look at the VIX and see what the implied volatilities are telling us also as we look at cycle analysis. So we're going to switch this over to the SPX, and I'm going to move over to the daily chart. And I want you to see something in here. So we have cyclical analysis in here. I know this looks like a busy, messy chart, but there are very, very important pieces of information in here. First thing I want you to note is that the cycle rhythms that are on the bottom, these cycle brackets, are the ideal. What we've added in here is momentum analysis, support resistance analysis to the cycle analysis, and the phenomenal slim ribbon PO on the bottom, which is your signal indicator for momentum. What's important to note is that between each of these very clear cycles, it shows you how many days, and they're averaging now, when you go back into the last summer of 2020, about 28 days. And this bracket right over here, what we call the dominant cycle, is set at 28 days. Let's just look at these last few cycles right over here, and something really phenomenal is happening. And that is this peak. See this low right over here, which was that end of that March correction, to this high right over here is 29 days. This is just incredible. And the distance that this moved is about 12%. And then NASDAQ made about 15%. And this is one of the biggest moves that we have seen and one of the most positive cycles that we have seen. And that only happens when the more dominant, longer time frames are very, very strong. It only leaves a brief time for correction because of each of these cycles are, averaging 28 days. This was a short 24 days, and sometimes you get a long one after that. It only leaves a few days for decline in here, maybe 2 or 3, which we expect to happen. We expected this would move down to as late as the 20th, which is early part of next week, and decline 2.5 to 3.5%. Sure doesn't want to give any ground yet. Now I want to show you the similarities in here in some of these cyclical patterns. And that is, if I look at this one, I'm just going to blow this one up right over here. That one was a 30-day cycle. It made its peak in the 27th day right over here and then came down. You can see that. So that decline was a couple of percent on the downside. And if you look at this cycle right over here, that was the day 28 that it made its peak in on that cycle right over there. And when you do that, you're under very bullish conditions, and you can see a brief decline. This one was pretty sizable right in here as it fell from a high of about 38.70 down to this low at under 3,700. So it was like a 175-point decline in just 3 days. So you can get some pretty sharp declines in these yellow phases that you see in here, and there's one due right over here. So we're looking for a decline in here. Now the slim ribbon is showing you this positive momentum condition right over here, and the slim ribbon PO, the signal indicator, has been giving you these positive signals. It went neutral right over here for just a brief period of time and then turned green again, as this is all positive. We actually don't expect this to turn, maybe it turns blue for a day or so, but then likely to be moving up again. This is the next middle cycle right over here. I want you to note these are called the complex structures of the cycles. We only do these on the indexes, and it moved to a level of a of an extreme high channel over here, which rarely happens. And the distance now from the 13-day moving average is pretty far, and almost every single time when it does that, at the end of the cycle, it retreats back in the yellow zone, back to the slim ribbon, as you can see right in here, and that's expected to happen right now. So we're looking for a few-day pullback in here in the S&P 500, and then be moving upward again. Now let's just talk about projections. Well, this was the highest projection that we had up over here, about 4158. When I'm not going to show you the weekly chart, this is just a short-term view. But if you go and watch our Future Speak show, you will see the upward projections, which take you potentially up over 4,300 over the next couple of cycles in here, or into late May or early June. So this is a very positive structure that you're looking at, only looking at for a minor decline. So when we're doing our peak analysis, I often try to look at what the information is out of the VIX. And here are the Vix Cyclical Patterns that you see in here. And you can see that there are a big dominant cycle that bottomed right over here. The intermediate cycle bottomed right here, and then these minor quarter cycles. Here's your minor quarter cycle, your minor quarter cycle, your minor quarter cycle. That says that you're about to get a pop in implied volatility. That's in line with the pullback that we're looking for in the market. However, we don't see any significant peak in the market until actually mid to late May. When I look right over here at the timing on the dominant cycle, that shows you around May 18th. And then the next one over here points to way out in August. So we don't think that that one is going to be the one that gives you the peak. It may likely be as we look into this mid to late May period where the market actually peaks. So what this analysis tells us is that the stock market's about to have a pullback and a minor peak in here where implied volatilities pop. Maybe they only get to 17 or 18, and then they pull back again, expected to go back to this 15 level or a little bit lower out towards the May, let's call it third week in May would be about the average. Here's the day, here's the weekly pattern right in here, and you can see in here this also points to implied volatilities beginning to peak and then come down again, and this points to early June. So it's late May, early June, and then moving up again. So for implied volatilities, that shows you we're about to get into a time frame of increased implied volatilities, but maybe not all that much. And what this points to is late May to early June, where the ultimate peak will come in the S&P 500, and that's really what we have been projecting, and the implied volatility, the VIX, is agreeing with that. So again, what we see for the S&P 500 is a brief pullback coming here in the next several days, and then another upside move, and which ultimately probably takes you up well into the 4200s, maybe into the 4300s in the S&P 500. It would take a very sharp decline in the stock market very soon to give us a worse scenario than we have right now. Momentum conditions in all time frames are positive. The only laggard is the Russell, which may continue to be a laggard or may pick up and catch up. But overall, all of the conditions are positive in the stock market right now. That has not changed, and our ultimate targets outside of a minor pullback coming up here really don't take us to a peak for another, we'll just call it 4 to 8 weeks for this incredibly strong bull market that we're seeing right now. You are invited to hear me speak Thursday, April 22nd at 3 p.m. Eastern Time at this great free event, Wealth 365 Summit, in which there will be over 50 speakers in 6 days. My topic, momentum analysis, the key to trading success. I think you're going to find it incredibly valuable. Please use the link that's included in the description of this post. I hope to see you there.